Pretty, so beautiful. All right, like I said, this time our children go on back. So you already got the memo. So there we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Brooks Hartley. I'm the youth pastor up here. I've been here for almost 2 years now. Can't believe it. But like I said, I'm here today to share the message with you guys, and hopefully, I believe most of us have heard this story today. So, if you would all turn with me, please, to Genesis 6, and that's where we're going to get started today. Like I said, most of us, I believe, have heard this story, so I'm not going to go detail for detail, but at the same time, it's a story that, like I told my youth this morning, or in any other time, it's a story that a lot of times we think is just a illustration to use to teach a lesson. We don't really take it as a literal sense sometimes. But as if you turn over to Genesis 6, you'll recognize when you come up to it, it's the story of Noah. And the story of Noah is a very literal story. In fact, they found the ark. We know where it is. It's the same mountain range as if the Bible said it. In fact, it's exactly the same size as the Bible describes it to be, all the way down to the width, to the height. They say that thing could hold over 150,000 sheep. So just think about that. 150,000, not 1,500, 150,000 sheep. So that's not all he put on there. But he could have done a lot with that ark, and he decided to do what God wanted him to do. But my point is today, we're going to dive into the story a little bit of Noah, and it's going to be a little bit different. Hopefully we'll all get to it. So if we can get to that first slide there, Will. All right, so we're going to start reading right here. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time. He walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. See, my youth could tell me those 3 sons. They take quizzes, and I give them money for it. So they could even tell me the name of those 3 sons without even having the scripture here. But I want us to look back there at that one part. Did it say Noah worshiped God? Does it say Noah prayed to God? Does it say Noah sometimes put money in the plate for God? It said he walked with God. Walked with God. I don't know about you, but if I'm walking with something, I got to be right there with him. I got to be standing right there with him, step for step. If I'm walking with you, that's me walking with you. I can walk behind you or walk in front of you, but if I'm walking with you, I'm right there beside you. So God and Noah, they're together. Not in the same sense I was talking about literal, but in the sense that perhaps they were walking side by side. I don't know. I got to talk to Noah one day about that. But in the same sense, Noah had God in his heart each and every day. And when we say when we're walking with Christ, sometimes we like to say that I'm just a Christian and I come to church on Sundays and sometimes I show up on the midday week, and if you catch me on a good day, I'll be here on Sunday night. But we don't have Sunday night, so you're out on that one for yet. But my point is, walking with God is not something we just pick and choose each and every day. It's not something we just turn off. Like sometimes we turn it on, right, at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and then we turn it right back off at 1 o'clock on Sunday after. Sound familiar? Walking with God is each and every day. So when we have the account of Noah and his family, when they say Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, how many people can we have that look upon us today that we're blameless? I can look at someone today and say, that's a righteous man. Not too many. But he walked faithfully with God. And that's something that's super important, I believe, today. And today, Jameson asked me today to give you guys, not all of you guys necessarily, but all of you parents, especially those who have kids who are going into school, especially starting back. And the purpose of this message today is try to prepare ourselves as people who, like I said, I'm not a parent, but I love the kids that I have, and I love them like a parent, and I would defend them like one of you would. And even if, like I said, even if it caused me bruises and scratches, I would defend them tooth and nail. But my point is, walking with God is something that starts with the parents. That's how the children learn to walk. They watched you to walk with their 2 legs. How can they expect to walk with Christ if they don't know how you do it? And if you don't do it the correct way, then why do they do it the incorrect way? Because of you. So you can't blame the student if the teacher is the problem, is my point. So many times we look at today's world and say these kids are the issue. Kids don't change. Parents do. You parents have changed over and over again. Some for the better, some for the worse. Like I said, I was a kid a lot less time ago than some of you, okay? I'm not trying to say you're old, but my point is, I was a kid not that long ago. Some of you look at me, you're still a kid. That's fine, call me a kid. I still pay taxes though, so we gotta talk about that. Gotta talk about that. But anyways, my point, parents, sometimes we get lazy. Even as a teacher with kids, I get lazy. I think every kid's the same, and they're not. Even because they came from you and they're all the same parents does not mean every child is the same. You can look at my brothers and be like, y'all are brothers? And just looking at us. We aren't the same, but we're all brothers. And my parents had to raise us all differently and love us all differently and discipline us differently. I remember my parents, I would walk in the door if I did something wrong at school, and I would tell them what I did. I would just tell them. I couldn't deal with it. Just go ahead and get my punishment out of the way. My brother Trevor, he'd lie. Then they would spank him. He'd go right back and do it again. I mean, it didn't make no difference. He'd do it on purpose to get caught. I mean, it didn't make a difference to him. But they found one thing with Trevor. He loved his cowboy boots. So anytime he messed up something, they took them cowboy boots from him. He'd take a butt whooping every day. Don't touch his cowboy boots, though. Kids are different. It's the same thing in each and every part of our life. We think, that child grew up that easy, so I can just do the bare minimum on that one, it'll be just the same. No, that child needs more love. That child needs more attention. That child needs more help. And you don't make them feel worse because they're different. You love them the same, just like God loves you. Because you didn't learn quick enough, didn't mean God gave up on you, did he? How many times did it take you to mess up before you figured it out? Still messing up, ain't you? He walked with God. So we must walk with God to show our kids what it looks like, even when we fall and stumble, so our kids can see what it looks like. So, bottom part here. Oh, sorry, next slide. Here we go. Noah walked with God. That's our first point. If you got your bulletin today, got you something to write down. Noah walked with God. The bottom part down here is, how do we treat Sundays in church? How do we treat them? Do we treat it with a reverency? Do we treat it, I got to wake up and go to church this morning. James is going to say something if I don't go up there. I know Jerry's going to say something if I don't go up there. No, but how do we treat church? When we get up to church and we spend the time, then we get in the car on the way home, do we start talking about the people that we were at church with? Do we start gossiping about somebody? Do we start complaining about what someone said? On the way to church, do we complain about the fact that we had to wake up this morning to get there? Who's listening? Our kids in the back seats. You might think they don't, but they do. They see the way you treat that church, the way they see you treat those people in church, and they reflect. They are a sponge. They soak up what you put out. That is it. They are a blank sheet that you are writing on. So whatever they put out, you did. Just let you know. That's what I used to tell my parents. It worked every time. But I'm telling you that right now. Just saying, they got a smart mouth. What about yours? If they got disrespectful ways, how about yours? We can't look to place the blame on someone else when we're the ones responsible. Because when God calls us up and he says, what about that kid of yours now? What about that son of yours you ain't talked to? Or you didn't want to spend no more time with? Or you spent the bare minimum with? How's he doing in life? Well, Lord, I hope he's doing good. Well, you should know he is. On top of that, is church the only place we give God time in our homes? This is the only time we make time for God. So when we come to church, is that the only time our children hear the word Jesus? The only time they feel the love of Christ? Is that the only time they hear the Lord's name? Not in vain, but the Lord's name out of love and out of care. And I'm not here to say today that there's a perfect parent out there. There's no such thing. There isn't. I don't have to be one to tell you that. But I do know what makes a perfect parent is one that doesn't quit trying. I can always say that about my father. Yes, he made his mistakes, but my father always made an effort. Yes, sometimes he fell on his face, and he'd have to apologize to me about something, but he always kept trying. No matter how foolish he would look or how, whatever it took him to do, he always made an effort. And I believe that is the bare minimum borderline for us to be good parents and good teachers and people to help others, is to keep trying. Don't just give in or just give up. Be relentless. All right, let's keep continuing our story here. And like I said, I'm not going through the whole story. Most of us know the story of Noah. If not, please go and read the rest of this chapter, Genesis 6-8. It's really short, but it's a wonderful story. Starting here at verse 11. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. So that's your second point down there at the bottom. If you got your bulletin, you're keeping up with me. Coat it with pitch. All right, let's go on to the next slide there for me, Will. Simple. I don't know if you've ever been in a boat, if you ever built a boat or seen it built. I've never built a boat personally. I don't think I've only built like a tree house and a couple tree stands, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever built anything that was worth, run to the bank about. But my point is, if you ever build a boat or seen one, they coat it with pitch and tar on the bottom. A lot of times we think that's to make it, stick together and hold together. Yeah, but it's also to make it waterproof, sealed, so nothing can penetrate through. A lot of times people describe this the same way as Jesus dying on the cross and spreading that blood to where the point there's nothing that penetrates, no sin that can get through. That's how everlasting Jesus' blood sacrifice is. It's a different kind of, term that we're going to use it or example. But in the same way, if you ever watched an old movie or anything like that, these guys weren't done with the tar and pitch after you built it. You kept putting it on there. You kept finding the holes that were rotting away. And you had to put another board, put some more tar, maybe add another layer, do it again. Kept going. Not just the same spot, maybe another spot. Maybe you ran into a hard spot, made another crack in the boat. You got to do something else. Same thing in our relationship with our kids. Sometimes we run into rocky roads. Sometimes we just don't see eye to eye. Sometimes we make a mistake as a parent, or sometimes our child makes a mistake. We have to fix those things. We can't just act like they didn't happen. We can't just turn the page like, we'll just ignore the elephant in the room for the rest of our lives because that's what we're going to do. How's that doing for you? You don't see each other anymore, do you? That's what happens when we don't fix our weak spots. We don't have to make them perfect. We just got to engage and see that there's something wrong there. It's like a wound. A lot of times if you get hurt or shot or something, you want the best treatment, but if you can't get the best, you want something, right? Like if I had dirt in my wound, I'd want it cleaned out at least. Maybe I can't get sewed up right away. Might have to air out a little bit, but I at least want to get it cleaned. It's the same thing in life. Maybe I can't fix the thing that I've done right now, but I can come and apologize to you, and I can set in motion the things that's going to heal it right now. Instead of waiting for days and days and letting that thing fester and infect to the point now I don't even want to touch it. It hurts to the point to even engage in it. Anybody feel the same way with your family right now? Where is it at? Where's that pain at in your heart and your day? We've all got it. It don't go away. It's like a sickness that you try to ignore and you finally go to the doctor and they're like, sir, you should have came 2 years ago. It don't go away because you ignore it. Because it's not every day in your life. Because you've removed that person out of your sight doesn't mean the problem still isn't there. And sometimes we think our children, we are done with them when they're out the house. Sometimes we tell them each and every day, you're leaving at 18. And when they get 18, they're thinking, I need to get out of here and never come back. Because my mom and dad said, if I don't get out of here at 18, they're going to run me out the house. We shouldn't run our kids out the house. We should love our kids. And yes, it's a time for everybody to get out their house. It's a time where we all don't meet, especially see eye to eye. But going back, though, we have things in our life like I said, relationship things, whatever it may be, but also a relationship with God. We have weak spots in our life, and it could be our faith. And that's like something we talked about before in youth, but the closer someone gets to God, if someone right beside them isn't with God, the further away they get from Him. It's kind of like Hubie showed a couple weeks ago, where if you're here and you're not getting close to God, and I am, we're going to get further apart. So in the same way, if our kids are getting closer to God, they're going to get further away from you if you don't know the Lord. That's just plain and simple. Didn't really think about it that way. A lot of times we like to think, I go to church and I do enough. Like I said, doing enough, like I said, isn't necessarily doing the best or doing what you need to do. And I think, like I said before, though, the apologies is the big thing. I think parents a lot of times forget that it's okay to apologize to our kids for our mistakes. Because in the same way, we expect our kids to apologize to us when they've made a mistake. So how can we expect to turn around and not do the same? How can we have these double standards on our kids and not expect ourselves to be held to the same standards? A lot of times I think we do that so many times as teachers. We think, or as I said, parents, we think we're just, if we're in authority or something, sometimes that gives us that little free rein to do or say what we want to do. But in a way, it gives us less. In a way, we should be more strict with what we say and what we do, because our words are more meaningful to them than anyone else. When you say something that's more insulting to them, that goes to heart longer than anyone that would be at school or anyone else. I want you to understand that when your parent tells you that you're sorry, when your parent tells you that you're worthless, when your parent tells you that you're good for nothing, when they tell you that they wish they never had you, that hurts more than anyone else could ever say. Those words stay with you forever. Those words that you might say out of anger, out of a split-second decision, stays with someone forever. Some of us, with our parents not even here, still probably have trauma from the parents they did have. And I'm telling you those things because even though sometimes it feels like I can just talk to this wall and my kids won't listen to me, everything you say and do, they do react to. But that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. What example are you setting for those kids? I found it really interesting because when Noah went to get on the ark, God said, go get your sons, come on to the ark. Wasn't no problem. Makes sense to us. That's common sense, right? God said, go get on the ark, go get on the ark. But then you turn through Genesis some more, and you get the story of Lot. The angel came to Lot and said, go get your daughters and your son-in-laws out the city. He had to drag them out the city. Drag them daughters out that city. They didn't want to leave. And the son-in-law stayed, and they died. You see, Lot didn't set that example that Noah did. When Lot said, God says, get out the city, they said, what are you talking about? You don't talk to God. You don't pray. You don't worship. What man of God are you, Lot? We've never even seen you pray before. Didn't even know you believed in God. Why should we listen to you now? How many times have y'all tried to correct your kids now when you should have done later? Or earlier, excuse me. And so many times do we, like I said, we wait until it's either in front of somebody or you feel like you might get bad reputation on yourself when you finally start to make a decision to do something. And by then, it's too late. Your kids done got set example of what you've done your whole life. You let them do whatever. You've neglected them. And neglect doesn't just look like someone starving and homeless. Neglect is emotional support, not being there. Someone not disciplining them. Someone not correcting them. Sometimes hard love is what we need. Lord knows I needed it. I wouldn't be here today. But the fact is, sometimes we just like to wait or we get lazy and we don't want to fix those problems when they happen. And like I said, they become worse problems when they get older. And it becomes disrespect, and it becomes crime, and it becomes all these other things. But my point is, though, we have to set that example each and every day, not just when we want to set them straight. If you're not living that life, kids see through that. I go and with these youth, these kids are smarter than we ever give them credit for. They can see right through you. Kids are the most, I would say intuitive or, perceptive or whatever you want to say. They can see right through somebody. If you're fake, they know it. And there's just no ifs, ands, or buts around it. They are the most, best ones to test someone's true character, because kids will test you in each and every way. So, but that's my point, though, is that, like I said, we have our mistakes, we have our issues, so we have to fix them. Then when we come across those in life, we also must engage in those and do them right away, because if we don't, our kids won't respect us when we get older and when they get older. All right, let's move on. Talk on that probably for more hours. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark. So I'm going to stop right there and let y'all turn, because I realize that is chapter 8, and this is at the end. So Noah's been on this ark, huge boat. But I want us to think now, how many of us can tell me right now, real quick, I don't want you to embarrass me though, how many animals was on that boat? I don't think it gave me a number. I can tell you it was 7 pair of each kind. Yeah, I know that. It wasn't just 2, it was 7 pair. And God sent those animals to Noah. And that was the most interesting, I think, I love about the Bible in this particular story, is that here I'm thinking about building a boat. I didn't even think about the animals coming. I was like, I want to build this darn boat. I'm just there thinking about it. And I haven't thought about how's he going to get all the animals to him, first of all. I don't know if Noah's an animal whisperer or what. But like I said, that was something that I didn't even think about. And, that's something to me that, it's like once again, God's like, you just do that, and I got the rest. You don't even have to worry about it. But on top of that, how much food did he bring? That was something I always thought too, is that he brought all these animals, all these, rooms, and he had all his family. But how much food did he bring? He was on the boat for 150 days. So, like I said, a couple of them animals might turn into food. I don't know. But my point is, Noah was prepared. He did everything God wanted him to do to get to this point. And everything, like I said before, when the floods came, God told Noah to come onto the boat. And then the Bible actually says, word for word, that God shut the boat of the ark. So as we see there, the ark wasn't Noah's. It was God's. He just needed Noah to build it. And so after the animals got on it, God shut the ark for Noah. And then the flood came for 150 days. And guys, once again, like I said, the story is not only just a story, but you can go out into those deserts in the Middle East. You can find pictures in those valleys and all those giant mountains. And guess what they have in those mountains? Carved out valleys from water that just came and went. And they don't know where it came from, Jerry. I can tell you where it came from. It's right here in Genesis. It tells us quite simply where it came from. But like I said, if you guys want to know more about the story, that we have the archaeological evidence and everything else that you might want. But like I said, I don't need all that. I got the good Lord's word, and that's all I need. But like I said, there is a lot of things that goes into the story. But go ahead, and we're going to finish up the story right here at the end. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark. And he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. Now the springs of the deep and the floodgates of heavens had been closed, and the rain had stopped falling from the sky. So I'm going to stop right there real quick. I love the beginning of it. It says, but God remembered Noah. At the very beginning, God promised Noah what was going to happen. He told him everything that he wanted him to do. He told him everything that he had to do. And then God told him what he was going to do. And God fulfilled that promise all the way to the end. And I could imagine I want you guys to try to imagine being Noah. He's like, the flood happened, but I don't know about you, but after day 10, I'm like, all right, I think we got them. I think they're all dead, God. But after 100 days, I'm like, all right, God, I hope you didn't forget about me up on this thing, But 150 days, like I said, God, did not forget Noah. He remembered Noah down there. And I'm going to read chapter 3, verse 3. It says, the water receded steadily from the earth. And at the end of the 150 days, the water had gone down, And this gives us the exact date, so if you want to know what day it was. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month, and on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. So there we go. Until the 10th month, and the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. So there you have it. Was that October the 10th, I believe that is? Now we could see the mountains again. But going back to our next slide here. Once again, there we go. Full evidence. I just want to throw that in there so you guys can see this is the mountain that it is, and it's got all these little labels for you so you can see exactly. And like I said, it looks smaller in that picture. It's a very massive, massive boat. We'll go on to the next one for me. Trusting in God. You know, we're talking about building a solid home, a foundation at home, something that the kids can rely on, and not only rely on, but get lessons from to go into life and apply those lessons when life gives us challenges. And life seems like those floodwaters start rising up, and the rains start coming down, and the storms start coming. What are our kids going to trust and lean into? You know, God fulfills his promises, just like he did with Noah. He always does. It might not be in our time, in our timing, It might not be when I want it, but it's going to be when I need it. You understand? And that a lot of times is, hard for me, Brooks, and my pea brain to accept and get, be okay with. But the fact is, God knows what I need when I need it. And sometimes I ask for it and I get it right away. I must have really needed it. And there's other times I ask for it and I don't get it at all. I must not have needed it at all. I haven't got it yet, I should say. But that's my point too, is how many times do we break our promises with our kids? It might not be a promise you made to go to Frankie Fun Park or Carowinds, but a promise you made to maybe quit drinking. A promise you made to quit smoking. A promise you made to quit doing the things that you do, gambling or going out or whatever it may be. We have these promises we make to kids for ourselves too. Sometimes we make promises to our loved ones. How many times have our kids seen us break a promise with our wife or a friend? Once again, our kids see everything we do, and they feel everything we do. If we don't keep our promises, how will they keep theirs? And how will they have the respect to do it if we don't respect it? Second point there is, how often do we keep our promises? Last point here is a lot for me. Do as much as we can when we can, and trust God with the rest. Do as much we can when we can. So, saying that to you parents, especially you parents who have kids in school, the when you can is now. To let you know now is the when you can. Doing all that you can now while that child is in your home, loving them each and every day, not just giving them everything they want, but loving them each and every day and nurturing them in the knowledge of God each and every day. That, to me, is what we can do when we have the opportunity. And that's what the opportunity we have here at the church as well. When they come here to church, we have the opportunity to love them and to nurture them and to be able to lift them up. And we do the best we can with the opportunities that we have. And that's something I want you guys as parents and as teachers to do the same. When we have the chance, don't waste it. Don't take it for granted. Don't act like, well, I'll get next week. You don't know if that kid will come back next week. You don't know what might happen next week. And that's the fact. We have to do the best we can when we can. And then it's like, well, why do all that? Because they're just going to go out there and something else. That's why we have to trust in God. That's why we have to do everything we can do right now. It's just a simple thing. It's like asking people to go to war with no training. It's what we do to our kids in a way. Yeah, they might not go out there and get shot at every day, but they do get shot at some kind of way. And as more and more danger comes into this world, Lord knows what may happen, but I'm not going to prophesize these things. But the fact is, we need to prepare our kids for as if they were going to war. It's a spiritual war out there, ladies and gentlemen, each and every day. It's a war we can't see, but it's the deadliest war. It's a war that causes the gun to go to your own head, the knife to go to your own wrist. That's the kind of war we fight now. So saying that, The pain that our kids are suffering is not going to be the same pain you suffered. Not in the same way, because things have changed, times have changed, so we have to change. You understand what Paul was saying when he said win at all costs, no matter what? No matter what? That's what he's talking about. I'm going to do whatever I can to win those for Christ, no matter what it costs me, whether it's my life, whether it's my shoes, whether it's my car. I'm going to do whatever I can for my kid to be the best in Christ, and everything else that's successful is one because of God. That is how we should live our lives with our kids. Not trying to get them set up on a 10-year plan of where they're going to go, because I didn't know where I wanted to go. Did you? No. So we need to get them locked into Christ and loving God, because then God will show them where they need to go. Because when you're dead and gone, who are they going to trust in? They're going to look at your picture and ask you what you're going to do next? No. They're going to go to God and they're going to pray and they're going to ask Him, I hope. And He's going to give them that answer that you would have gave them. That's what I'm hoping. But my question is, are you giving the same answers that God would give them? How would you know unless you know God? How would you know unless you put your children with God and you put God before you when you discipline or do with your children? A lot of times we like to just do our thing with what our parents used to do or what someone else used to do. We never really go to God when it comes to our kids sometimes, especially when it comes to disciplining them. One of the last things I'll have to say for you today, especially when it comes to trusting in God, and it's something that I remember hearing old football coach, some of y'all may know, Lou Holtz, Carolina football coach that we used to have. He coached at Notre Dame for a long time. He used to say, it's not the load that kills you, it's the way you carry it. And I believe today our children have a load greater than any other. They have a load of the world today that does nothing but wants to hurt them and steal from them, not just steal physically, but joy. We have a world today that wants to suck joy and love out of us. I don't want to understand if you understand how evil that is. You can take my car, you can take my house, but you take my joy. What purpose is there? You understand? That is what our kids are fighting each and every day. And because it doesn't affect us, some of us don't care. Because it doesn't affect you, or you never experience it, doesn't make it real to you. Well, I hope you never experience cancer or anything else in life, because it's still real. It's still something that's there. Even though you've never had to deal with it, it's still there. It's not fair for you to treat your kids differently because it's different times that you were in. It's not fair for you to treat your kids the way your parents did unfairly. It's not fair for you to put out all the trauma you have on your life onto your kids who have done nothing to deserve that trauma. So before we start loving our kids with Christ, and before we start judging this world of how bad it is, how about we look at ourselves and those who have made this world the way it is? Kids were born in it. Some of us built it. And I just have to say that the kids today are great kids. All you parents know that your kids are wonderful kids. But you fear each and every day of this world that is outside. And you have a very just fear. My fear is that here in the church, we don't give them another place to feel loved. And if it ain't at home and it ain't at church, then where is it? So we need to check ourselves before we start judging this world and all these kids and what they do. How about we start looking at the parents and what they do and what they haven't done? Have we dedicated our lives to Christ as a parent? Do you just drop your kids off at church, or do you come in here and actually listen? Do you fall asleep out here while someone's trying to preach? Just things you need to listen for yourself. So when we see issues in our kids, we'll know not to look too far. Thank you. Now, we'll go ahead and do an altar call. And I want to do an altar call now, especially for those parents who have kids who are going to school, those of you who want to dedicate your life to Christ, especially if you're a parent, you want to have that reassurance that you know that you are doing the best that you can do for your child. I believe that now is a good time for us to really come into our own, especially our own hearts, and think, am I doing the best I can do for my kids? Am I the best I am? And that to me is something I think about all the time as being a husband. is that I know I'm not the best husband because I'm not the best me yet. So I can't be the best husband until I'm the best version of me. So I believe it's the same thing when we come and we ask about being parents. We also ask about being Christians. Are we the best that we can be in every aspect of our life? Because, like I said, it affects all the way down to my spouse, all the way down to your kids. And like I said, those little things are the big things. Like I said, if anything now, please do come. I'm going to ask all the prayer.